Okay, Adam. Now, you're actually a bit of a poacher turned gamekeeper, the other way around, gamekeeper turned poacher, aren't you? You used to work for bookies on course.
Yeah, so it started. I just wanted to get into racing so badly, and I was rubbish at school. I just wanted to play sport, cricket, football, everything, go racing, ride. So I rode ponies from the age of about 5 or 6. I can't even remember when it started, but and I was always being told off by the teachers for sort of riding with my elbows out. So I was always riding a finish rather than some gymkhana style. So we were going racing along with my dad, and I finished school, and there was loads of sort of dead years where I didn't really do much. And somehow I ended up hooking up with a silver ring bookmaker called Mike Lester, who was a brickie essentially. And I don't know, I think in the 80s there was like a building boom, and there seemed to be a bunch of Leicester sort of brickies that wanted to be bookies, and they all sort of signed on the extended supplementary list or whatever. Mick was well down the numbers in at most tracks, but it was I'd finally sort of got in there, and so our season basically started in May at Chester, the 3-day meeting, and then sort of went from there, sort of 4 or 5 days a week, going all over really. But the ring was, as you know, the ring was. I mean, even then, people were saying, "Oh, the game's gone," And there was like 3 rings. We were in the silver over on the course side at Salisbury, Ludlow. We'd go everywhere. And we were on the course side in Chester, and I go to Chester most years, and it's so sad to see that in the course there's literally one bookmaker. And it's all sort of corporate now, but it was you do some right trade, and so I was clerking for Mick for I don't know how long, for a few years, sort of early 90s really, and but it was kind of a means to an end. It was. I don't think Mum and Dad were that impressed that I was sort of, jumping in the back of a red Mondeo every morning with leopard skin seats, and off we went to the, off I was for the day. But that's the way it was, and it was brilliant. And I was dying to punt, but obviously we were only making 25-30 quid a day, so it was crazy to punt it all back. But I always felt that I wanted to prove to not just myself but to my dad, I think probably more than anything else, that you could make money, because Dad was a sort of self-styled mug punter. He knew he was a mug punter. He was a Saturday punter, and just did it for fun, the doubles and trebles and the Yankee and that kind of thing that never came up, and I used to sort of do that, but it didn't really enhance my enjoyment of racing because they never came in, and so I just figured, if you're going to have a fiver on it on doubles and trebles and Yankees or something, I'd much rather stick a fiver on the one horse that I fancy, that I really fancy. So my theory from betting sort of evolved from that really, and I think by 95 I decided to. I think it was 95. I just basically, that was my first incarnation as a pro punter. I was still doing some sort of warehouse work, I think 1 or 2 days a week. The rest of the time I was going out with Mick to the track, and the rest of the time I was just punting. And quite I mean, you have to do the turnover. So I don't know where I got the money from, but I was sort of betting 3 figures at that stage already, and it was a really good experience. It was successful, but not successful enough, basically. And of course, in those days, most of it was credit based. So I had half a dozen credit accounts, and we all know how that ends, But fortunately, that led into sort of desperate straits where I had to get a job, and I got a job at SIS in the text room. where it seems like everybody else started out, and I was there for a couple of years and sort of rebuilding, you know, 5ers, 10ers, trying to rebuild the sort of tank. And I was still doing stuff for Mick on the big days like Royal Ascot. I'd be sort of on the radios or on the stall, and I think we'd do the King George at Kempton as well, Boxing Day, that sort of thing, just to keep my eye on, sort of thing. So I sort of learned more doing the on-course stuff than I ever sort of would really, but you know, learning the figures and the percentages and all that sort of thing, and that still holds me in pretty good stead now, to be honest, because I do try and make my own tissue on the handicap chases that I'm going to cover at the track. So that's, it's still a massive part of the way I look at a race. Yeah, I'll do my own tissues for at least a couple of the races. Yeah.
So when did this incarnation of pro punting start?
It's about 5 years ago. From SIS, I was terrible at that as well. So I kind of jumped before I was pushed, and I ended up in London without a job. Not a good idea, but it was the best time of my life really. I was sort of doing bits and bobs. Ended up at Reading Dogs doing some clerking down there for about a year, maybe more. And then I just got a couple of breaks and started working for Sky Text, CFAX, that kind of thing, as a freelancer. And I sort of went away from racing. After working in racing for 2 or 3 years, I was like, it was spoiling my enjoyment of the game. I'm sort of a passionate racing fan first and foremost. And yeah, I just got a bit. It's so all-consuming racing that working in it, having a job in it, you've got to do the flat, you've got to do the evenings, and it's the long days. It's just incessant sort of thing. And so I went down a different track, and got lucky really. Pre-internet, text was still massive. CFAX was massive. I mean, as a kid, you'd run home and the first thing you'd do would put CFAX on, check the cricket scores, the racing results, all that sort of thing. And then 3 or 4 years later, there I am, you know, at White City writing CFAX. I mean, it was unbelievable, really. And that's how the sort of writing started, the sort of sub-editing journalism type stuff. And that sort of went on for about 15 years, really, incredibly. And then I'd had enough by the time I was 40, I was absolutely sick of it, and I kind of thought that the end was, there'd been a lot of changes with the internet and that kind of thing, and I was just sort of, it was time to move on, and I still had the sort of the itch to scratch. I wanted to do the punting again. I didn't go racing for about 3 or 4 years after moving up here. I just went away from racing altogether. I think I was frustrated that as a part-time punter, I wasn't making enough. It's a kind of a chicken and egg situation, because with a full-time job, it's very hard to put in all the work that you need to be successful enough to build the tank, to start, you know, to do it professionally. But it got to the point where I just came up with the plan that I would do a blog and reach out to people and see, and just open a few doors and see where it would take me, really. But the punting had to work. So so I planned to leave about a year before I left. Did the blog for 9 months, so I had loads of content to put straight up when I went live, when I left work, and so that was it, really. We just hit the ground running in I think 2014, something like that.
Just hit the ground running. That's quite a leap of faith to go from a job to pro punting.
Yeah, it was massive. Yeah. I mean, you need the support. You need the cash behind you. You need the support of your wife. You know, your loved ones.
What did your wife say when you said you were going to go pro punting?
Well, she knew I was I was desperately unhappy what I was doing. It was obvious to everybody, I think. And you know, our daughter was quite young, and I was coming home from work at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning. after covering the boxing or something, and it was brutal. You know, I just couldn't do it anymore, sort of thing. So I had options. I thought of other things that I wanted to do, but I just thought I've got so much experience, so many hours of doing this and experiencing the emotions and the trials and tribulations of punting seriously. I just thought I can't throw that away. I've got to work at that, give it a chance. And as I say, the 9 months, the season prior to quitting, I just went out punting. I just wondered if it was all still there, and it was. And she was okay with it. And as I say, you know, I just wanted to push on the door really and see what was out there, because I'd been working for Sky for 15 years, and I didn't really know what the environment that was out there, you know. So
did it start off well from the beginning?
Yeah, it was just solid, you know. I mean, I've always been a sort of 2 step forward, 1 step back kind of punter. I always tend to bet fairly level stakes, singles, so that there weren't too many troughs and not too many hills. It was just pretty steady away. So I just kept it pretty solid, and it was okay. It was fine. It was very hard work. Coming home, doing the blog, I would write an email preview for the next day for the clients that I picked up, and off we'd go again, sort of thing. It was really, really, really busy. That was the main problem, getting all the research in before I went to the track.
Is the fact that you can spot the blatantly unfit horses, is that a good way of cutting down your losing runs?
Good question, actually. No, probably. Because whatever sort of method you use, you just can't avoid doing it wrong for periods of time. Losing runs, I mean, there are different types of losing run, I think. There's the types where you're just doing everything wrong. And there are the losing ones where you're doing stuff right, but you're just having a terrible run of bad luck for whatever reason, you know. And I just think, you know, I can still. It's amazing. You can still see unfit horses, but play them wrong. You could lay it for a place and it'll trot into third, you know. Or you could say, well, if that's not fit, I'll back that, and then the thing you back comes whatever on place or second, and the thing that's the favourite that doesn't look great is out the back, you know. And I should have laid that, sort of thing. So your decision making has still got to be absolutely spot on, you know.
So what do you do when that happens? What is your tactic for getting out of the rut, so to speak?
Yeah, just plough on. I mean, you know, you're not going to get it back by stopping. You've got to plough on. It depends on it depends on if you've lost your shape, if you've lost your discipline, or if you're laying too many horses, or you've gone too safe, or you've gone too aggressive. You know, you've got to. It is a real fine line. The mental stability side of things is the key thing, and I think as long as you try and keep as flat line as you can mentally, I think you'll just pull through, because you've got years of experience to just get through it.
It's not the ideal job for sleeping well at night, is it really?
No, but I would never sort of. It hasn't got to the stage, touch wood, where you know, I'm worrying too much about it at this stage.